Welcome to GUS Underwriting Findings Report, presented by USDA's Single Family Housing Guaranteed Loan Program. The objectives of the training will review the GUS Underwriting Findings Report, which includes the Underwriting Recommendation, Underwriting Analysis Report, and Credit Report. The GUS Underwriting Findings Report will take all of the data that has been entered on the 8 GUS application pages and 1. Provide an underwriting recommendation based on the data entered into GUS, 2. Provide a property and income eligibility determination, and 3. Organize the data into an easy-to-review package. Users can easily identify potential errors or transposed digits and follow documentation guidance to assist the lender in putting together a complete loan application package. When a successful preliminary or final underwriting submission is completed, the underwriting recommendation will be displayed at the top of the GUS Underwriting Findings Report. In this example, the recommendation is Accept Eligible. The GUS Underwriting Recommendation is delivered in 2 parts. The first portion specifically addresses credit, capacity, and collateral. Potential determinations are Accept. Remember, GUS is not a loan approval machine. An accept recommendation indicates that GUS has assessed the loan as an acceptable credit risk. Refer. GUS has identified risk layers within the loan file. Therefore, human review is required for a more thorough underwrite of the file. Refer with caution. GUS has identified multiple layers of risk, and human review is most definitely required. And ineligible. The loan does not meet regulations. For example, the debt-to-income ratios are too high to qualify for a ratio waiver request. The loan file cannot be submitted to USDA for review. The second part of the underwriting recommendation is specifically for property, income, and applicant eligibility. Potential results include eligible. Regulatory requirements have been met. Ineligible. The property may be located in an ineligible area, the applicant may be over the adjusted annual income limit, or the applicant may have characteristics that render them ineligible. And unable to determine, the property cannot be located with the online mapping system. In this case, users should contact USDA for assistance. If you do not receive the underwriting recommendation from GUS that you anticipated, review the section below the recommendation for potential clues. GUS easily provides a breakdown of property eligibility, income, loan, borrower eligibility, as well as loan risk evaluation and individual borrower risk evaluation. GUS will also display the primary borrower, submission type, submission date, who the loan was submitted by, and the loan status. The lender information section will also include the lender name, the lender tax ID, the USDA assigned branch number, the lender loan number, and the GUS application ID number. The mortgage information section includes a brief overview of important underwriting information, the LTV or loan to value, the PITI ratio, which includes the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, the TD or total debt ratio, the loan amount, the total loan amount requested by the lender, the sales price, which is the contract sales price of the collateral, the monthly MCC, which is the monthly amount of any applicable mortgage credit certificate, and also whether or not a temporary buy-down was considered in the underwriting of this file. This will display yes or no. The middle column displays the total debt calculation, which is the monthly PITI plus the total monthly amount of other monthly debt obligations to completely equal the total monthly debt. The third column lists the note rate, the loan type, the loan term, the amortization type, the loan purpose, the refinance purpose if applicable, any payment shock, cash reserves, and months of cash reserves. Some asset types are not eligible to be included in the cash reserve calculation. Handbook Chapter 9 includes more details. When briefly reviewing a loan, typically the ratios, payment shock, and months of cash reserves are the sweet spots on this particular section. If there are any eligibility issues with the property, they will be listed under the Property Information section. The Income Eligibility section will state the data entered on the eligibility application page, which will include the county and MSA, the number of people in the household, adjusted income questions and entries for elderly households, medical expenses and deductions, dependents, child care expenses, disabled household members, as well as disability expenses. The total household income will display, as well as total allowable adjustments, the adjusted household income, which remember is rounded to the nearest $10 in GUS, and the maximum allowable adjusted household income. GUS will display the maximum income limit based on the state, county, and MSA where the property is located. If there are any income eligibility findings, they will be listed in this section of the Underwriting Findings Report. If the rendered underwriting recommendation is refer with caution, or ineligible, please review the loan/applicant eligibility and loan/applicant risk section for additional details. There may be data entry errors that can be corrected to change the underwriting recommendation. There may also be other issues with the loan file that cannot be overcome. In this example, there are no loan eligibility findings, but there are loan risk findings, specifically a low credit score for the named applicant. This is not a rejection of the loan file, but GUS is alerting the lender to risks associated with the application that require additional underwriting review and documentation. The lender's required conditions section lists all of the documentation and underwriting considerations that the lender must complete or research prior to a final submission, prior to conditional commitment request, prior to loan closing, as well as prior to requesting the loan note guarantee. Some messages are default messages and therefore may not apply. However, depending upon the transaction type, purchase, existing dwelling, new construction, refinance, repair escrow accounts, CAVR reports, etc., the lender must review each message and determine if the proper documentation is secured to support the loan request. If a GUS accept underwriting recommendation was received, the loan may be selected for a full documentation file submission due to quality control measures. If a full documentation submission is required, it will be listed in this section of the finding report. Rule Development's required conditions refers to what USDA is responsible for prior to final submission, prior to issuing a conditional commitment, prior to loan closing, and prior to issuing the loan note guarantee. Lenders are not responsible to review these conditions. The second part of the GUS Underwriting Findings Report is the GUS Underwriting Analysis Report. Data captured on the previous GUS application pages will be organized to ensure the ease of review of all data fields completed. The Property Information section allows users to ensure the appraised value matches the appraisal obtained for the property and the correct transaction has been selected. Under Repayment Income, users can review the income types that have been entered as stable and dependable sources to support the mortgage request. Many income types are not eligible for consideration under 3555.152A if they cannot be properly documented or supported. The Expenses section will break out housing and other expenses. Housing expenses will compare the applicant's current housing expenses to the proposed expenses for the purchase of the new home. Other expenses will total the outstanding debt from the credit report and assets and liabilities application page, and then list the total monthly liability payment due. The Funds section will calculate the funds due, the funds available, cash back, debts to be paid at closing, and cash reserves. Again, some asset types are not eligible to reflect in the Funds section. Please refer to Handbook Chapter 5 for additional details. The Credit Report section will display the information regarding the type of credit report ordered, the date of the report, and the provider from where it was ordered. The entire credit report may be accessed by selecting the Credit Report hyperlink. The credit score selected by GUS that was used for the underwriting purposes will also be listed. Users will have the ability to print the Underwriting Findings Report by selecting Print from the footer buttons at the bottom of the screen. When the GUS Underwriting Findings Report is printed at the top of the page, under the Borrower pane, the following will be listed. The submission sequence. A number will be listed to indicate how many times the application has been submitted for preliminary and final underwriting submissions. The last update. The date and timestamp to reflect when the loan application had updated data fields or was submitted for a preliminary or final underwriting submission will display. Please sign up for the Gov delivery messages. USDA sends out origination, including GUS and servicing messages, to alert lenders of new publications, clarifications, and additional program updates. Thank you for supporting the USDA Single Family Housing Guaranteed Loan Program. We appreciate the opportunity to help you serve more rural home buyers. This will conclude the training module. Thank you and have a great day.